Maestro, and we are broadcasting live from Paris on YouTube. So a few minutes ago, I had started a broadcast on X, but it didn't work out too well. So I had to switch phones, and so I'm doing it on YouTube Live. So hopefully we can find those people. So welcome, this is Euro Maestro. We're broadcasting live here on YouTube. As I was saying earlier, I was on X, but for technical reasons had to switch. Oh, we got a boat passing. Let's go take a look at that. So there's the boat passing. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be difficult to get the word out. But I'm going to try. Let's see. I couldn't do X on this phone for some reason, so I have no idea why. Both phones have my X account on it. On the one phone, the X Live is an option, and on the other one, X Live is not an option. So I have no idea why. Somehow X knows which account I'm on. But how does the video quality and audio quality compare switching from X to YouTube? So let me know. It would be a good thing to know. Bonsoir, Euro. You happen to catch the YouTube notification. Okay, that's awesome. So I'm gonna walk around here. We're gonna do one of our Paris walk and talks that I sometimes do on X, but we're gonna do it on YouTube. And if there's anybody here that was in the previous one, feel free to comment on the difference in video and audio quality. Now, I know some people on YouTube, if you're not used to YouTube Live, have trouble finding out how to chat. So I don't even know the best way to explain it. But you have to just organize your window in such a way that the chat shows up usually at the bottom, I believe. And you just type in there just like you would elsewhere. There's no glare, but video is postage stamp size. Now that's interesting. I don't know any reason why it should be smaller, except I am using vertical, and maybe I should be using landscape. So thanks for that, Tommy. What's up, man, says Rico. Suave. How are you? So we're in Paris. I was explaining earlier, we're gonna have the Summer Olympics here in Paris at the end of July, beginning of August. So I hope to do some live streams during the Olympics so you can see what's going on in the city. It should be quite interesting, very busy time. Evelyn in Maine says hi. Hi, Evelyn, how are you? Oh my God, thanks for the likes. I see a bunch of you hitting the like button. That helps out a lot. Also commenting. I heard the Spire is back on Notre Dame. It is back. I actually did a live stream a week ago showing the Spire, but I'm gonna walk around the corner here and show you the Spire again. I don't know if it's lit up though. Thanks for the hearts. By the way, you can do hearts now on YouTube, just like you can on X and like you were able to do on Periscope. I'm assuming it's by tapping the screen. Here's the famous Shakespeare and company. How have you been? I've been fine. Do you ever do live streaming from Twitter? I do live streaming from Twitter or from X. In fact, I did one just a few minutes ago prior to this broadcast, but I had some technical issues. So unfortunately the spire is not lit up tonight for some reason. I think it was lit up last time, or maybe I did it during the daytime, I don't remember. But you can see the spire there, but it's dark, so we're not getting all the richness of the architectural features. But you can see it is there, it is standing, and they took away the scaffolding around the spire. You and Steve were awesome. Well, thank you. So Steve is a YouTuber as well, live streamer, and he was here. When was that? 2 or 3 weeks ago? Maybe a month ago now? I don't know. Time flies by. And he did a lot of live streams every day. And I met up with him a couple of times. And we did a live stream together. So it was a lot of fun. And we even walked around some of these neighborhoods. He had dinner in this neighborhood one night. So we saw behind me Notre Dame. Yeah, it was about a month ago. And on this side, we have another church. We'll go inside if it's open, but I think it might not be open at this time of night. But this church, which is right across the street from Notre Dame, which is a classic church of Gothic architecture, is right across the street from this other church, which is only 16 years older, but doesn't use Gothic architecture. It uses Roman architecture, and you can see it's very different. It's much more simplistic in style. So the church, as I was afraid, is closed, so we won't be able to go inside. And you can see that there's some scaffolding. But the main thing you notice about this type of architecture, unlike Gothic, is it cannot go very high because it would require incredibly thick walls and foundation. And so the windows cannot be as big, so they cannot let in as much interior light. So they're much darker, much smaller. And then the Gothic churches was really an amazing innovation in architecture, because it allowed the buildings to go so high and bring in so much light. For some reason, you were like a popular guy in Periscope as a viewer. Lol. Yes, for some reason, I was a popular guy on Periscope. You loved your month in France. The French are friendly but observed. Oh, yeah. Robin is here. Hey, Robin. So look at that. We've got another church. So we've got a lot of churches in France. Not so much because people are very religious these days. But in the Middle Ages, people were religious. I mean, religion was really the sort of the cornerstone of life. So there were churches all over the place, as you can see right there. And here we actually have some medieval architecture that remains. So most of Paris has lost the medieval architecture. You can see a little remnant of it here. There's a few other areas in Paris that have a few buildings next to each other with this middle age type medieval architecture. You see, most of it is more modern, quote unquote modern, over here. So this dating from like the 19th century. And look at these roads. They're meandering cobblestone roads. So is this postage size stamp for everybody or just for some people, depending on your device? I think for some people it's normal size. You love the roads, yeah. So we have sections of Paris that just have roads like this. You can see it's mostly pedestrian, sometimes exclusively pedestrian. Uh-oh, we got a crowd up there. Do you know why we have a crowd up there? Because it's Saturday night and these people are here. Sure, show. I don't see anybody dressed up though. So the dressed up people are in the inside. But these people probably have things like rice and squirt guns and things like that. So there you can see a Rocky Horror Picture Show every Friday and Saturday at 9 o'clock. Some people are dancing already because they're preparing for the show. So if you're not familiar with the show, you not only watch the film, but you sing it. Yeah, there is a wedding inside, so people bring rice to throw at each other and on the screen. And there's a lot of songs. So people sing and dance to the movie. People, literally get up out of their seats and sing and dance, either in place or up front. It's worth probably experiencing at least once. May not be your cup of tea, but maybe you'll love it. And it has been playing continuously since the 1970s. Yeah, it's audience participation. So most of the audience has seen the film multiple times. They know the dialogue by heart. And so as the film progresses, they are responding to the screen. So they're talking to the screen with various jokes in connection with what's happening on the screen or with the dialogue. They have squirt bottles and they have newspapers and all kinds of stuff. Deck of cards, toast. So the theater doesn't want you to get too crazy because they don't want to have to spend a lot of time cleaning up, but you can get a little bit crazy. You saw it when it was first released. Robin, if you saw it when it was first released, I don't even think that's possible because it was first released in the 70s, I think mid 70s or late 70s. So it was released more than 40 years ago, almost 50 years ago. Here you can see some of the architecture around the building. So it's definitely a fun film. I've been to it. I've participated in it. I've done the songs and the dances and, all the craziness that goes along with it. I'm that old. Well, you don't look it. You're young at heart. That's what counts. So, there you go. So, it's kind of fun. I do, in a way, kind of prefer YouTube to X. I don't know what the experience is for the viewer, but for the broadcaster, it's quite nice because I can see the likes and I can see how many people are watching. Whereas on X, you used to be able to see how many people are watching, but now they changed it so you can no longer tell how many people are watching. Looks good here, says Evelyn. Okay, well, that's good to know. So you can see this is pretty much standard Paris architecture throughout the whole city. It's called Haussmannian architecture. And basically it consists of these wrought iron balconies that you can see over here and everywhere. And then typically you have an extended balcony up on the 5th floor and on the 2nd floor, as you can see there. So the 1st floor is just businesses, typically, restaurants, stores on the 1st floor. Generally speaking, nobody actually lives on the 1st floor. and then or the ground floor for French people. And then up on what we call the first floor, what the Americans call the second floor, that's when you start having residences. Whew. Starting to get mixed up on the floors here. So very cool looking. Yeah. And then we have a little park here that's closed at night. So it's closed right now. But it's nice during the daytime to relax and have a little lunch. Smaller picture on iPad with comments below. And if I expand the picture, I get no comments. But is it postage size? I mean, that's really small. So maybe it's difficult on an iPhone. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I did want to talk. I had a space last night on X, and I did talk quite a bit about AI in the beginning, and then it switched over to news and politics like it often does. But I think the AI is really the biggest news coming. So it's coming in drips and drabs, so people are probably missing it. But by 2030, I think this will be the biggest news story of the century, and probably even of the last maybe 300 or 400 years. The biggest shakeup since the Industrial Revolution. And it's not just me or enthusiasts like me that believe this, because some people are putting their money where their mouth is. So Microsoft is investing $100 billion, billion with a B, dollars, in one data center. So if you think about the financial resources they're dedicating to this, this is huge. And no company would do that unless they believe that the payoff is going to be huge. So just to put this in perspective, it is believed that the GPT-4 run, so the enhanced version of ChatGPT that people use, cost $100 million. So it's considered $100 million run. They're currently working on $1 billion run, which is already considered expensive. And they have plans for a $10 billion run and a $100 billion run. And they haven't done it yet, but they're already talking about and envisioning a $1 trillion run. So they are actually contemplating before 2030 to invest $1 trillion into one piece of software. So, this is like the total evaluation of many companies. Yeah, $1 trillion. I think the platform isn't suitable for iPad. I saw that Macron is in Brazil. Is that true? Yeah, he was in Brazil. Hey, bro. Y'all having a time change, right? So, yeah, we do have a time change tonight. Tonight going into tomorrow. So, Europe does the summertime at the end of March, which was the traditional time and the time that the Americans used to change to summertime. And now the United States changes it, I think 3 weeks earlier. So as it stands at this moment, Paris is 5 hours ahead of New York, but tomorrow it will go back to 6 hours ahead of New York. So we'll lose an hour of sleep tonight. So you can see all the people out on the street here eating and drinking or preparing to eat and drink. So you see another pedestrian street that I was talking about. These people have masks on. So I don't know if you saw that there's a club that we just passed by where everybody's in costume wearing masks. And Monday here is a national holiday, so we have a long weekend. So people will be able to be out Saturday and Sunday night very late because people do not have to go to work on Monday. So you can see this street and this neighborhood in particular is just filled with restaurants and gelato shops and souvenir shops. So it's very touristy and lots of food, mostly food. Sunday, what is it? In Italy too. So Sunday is Easter, which is a big holiday, religious holiday for the Christians, and Monday is a secular holiday to have the day off. So it's not uncommon in Europe to have Monday after Easter off. Some people have the Friday before off, and some people have both of them off. It's very, very common in Europe. What's unusual is it falls on April 1st this year, which is, of course, April Fool's Day, which is not usually a holiday. Friday was Good Friday here. Yeah. So Friday was Good Friday here is just not a holiday. I actually did a live stream on X showing a religious procession that day, which was interesting. But in some places in Europe, it's an actual public holiday. What is the name of the street you are on? Let me show you the name of the street. So in Paris, if you're ever wondering where you are, we have street signs. But look, if you're looking for where you would find them in the States on the street, you won't find them. So we put them on the buildings. So you just look at the building, and it'll have the name of the street, and then it'll have a number up top. You see that 5 there? It tells you the district we're in. So this is the street we're on. So it's called Rue de la Huchette, and you can see it's in the 5th. Okay, so that's how you know where you are in Paris. You can just look up at the street signs, which are on the building, and they will tell you. And as you can see, all of the streets in this whole neighborhood, it goes a few blocks in this direction and over. They're all pedestrians streets, so there aren't any cars, as you can see. People just walk in the streets, and there's restaurants everywhere. So if you need food in a hurry, you can come here. And there's a large variety of food. And it has been this way since the Middle Ages. Oh, look at this. We got a tourist group coming through here. So you see the guy, he's holding up like an umbrella or something. So he's the tour leader. And look at the crowd of people following him. And then they're gonna stop somewhere up ahead, and he's gonna give them a little mini lecture of the history of the area and the tourist sites. Robin knows this neighborhood, as she said, because she stayed in this neighborhood. So I think she stayed in a place down here somewhere. In fact, we'll walk down this street so you can see a little bit more. But since the Middle Ages, this place has always been known to have lots of ethnic restaurants. So I don't know if you saw the signs as we're walking by, but some of these places, this is the Balkans, okay, the Balkans. But you have things from, you have Greek restaurants and Chinese restaurants, Italian restaurants, even French restaurants, Thai restaurants. We've got Vietnamese restaurants. So it's just like a panoply of different countries. Looked at the apartments in the 5th and 6th, not cheap. Nope, they're not cheap. between you, Steve, and Cupcake is the most I've ever seen in Paris. I appreciate all of you showing us. Well, I'm glad that was helpful to you. That's what we aim to do. Typical tourist spots will be closed during the Olympics. I mean, I suppose I haven't really looked into that. It's going to be so strange during the Olympics because we already get something like 80 million people that visit France a year. So most of them are coming into Paris. This year, we'll have an additional 15 million. So I wouldn't be surprised if we hit maybe even 100 million this year. So I have no idea how we're going to handle those extra crowds across from the Blue Restaurant. The Blue Restaurant. So there's an Indian restaurant. There's a South Tunisian restaurant. Not just Tunisian, but South Tunisian restaurant. Pizza place. Look at these. There's a hotel here. So you can see the architecture is quite nice. And tons of creperies. Happy Saturday, Euro. Well, happy Saturday, sunny day. Did I hear that you're getting extra police and people? Oh, yeah. So there's a ton of people they're hiring. There's a tons of people that have volunteered. They'll bring in police and they're increasing security. But I'm wondering, how are we going to handle all these people in terms of logistics? Because we have to transport these people around the city. And, we already transport millions of people a day. Paris is the second busiest transport system in the world. So we already move a lot of people around as it is. And we're going to have to move 15 million extra people. So I have seen signs around Paris encouraging Parisians to not use public transport, basically, and to use things like bicycles and scooters and walk around to leave more space for the tourists. So they will be developing lots and lots of supplemental transportation systems to try to handle all of this. And then, of course, you have to, the restaurants. I imagine all the restaurants, I'm sure, are going to be packed. They're usually pretty busy as it is. But I'm sure restaurants will be packed and clubs and museums. I don't know, can't even imagine what it's going to be like. So you can see how the city has become very pedestrian, and the goal over the next few years is to make it even more pedestrian. So we're really trying to limit the use of cars inside the city, and they'll be used mostly on some major roads, and a lot of these smaller roads are going to all be pedestrian, like many of them are today. See how everybody just sort of walks in the streets, and you typically do not see any cars, where maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago you would have seen cars. Here we have the fountains. The hotel on the corner was pretty good. Yeah, Robin stayed at the hotel on the corner, I believe. What is the opening day for Olympics? I'll have to check. I think it's the 26th of July. Sounds about right. So right there at the end of July will be opening day. And like I said, opening day is going to be... the opening day ceremony is going to be on the river. The Eiffel Tower and Trocadero will be closed to tourists. Well, that makes sense, to be honest. I think it would be very difficult to have the Eiffel Tower open. The Trocadero, not that surprising, maybe a little bit surprising. But I'm just going to continue walking around the pedestrian neighborhood for a little bit to show you what it's like. Here's something some of you might not know about, which is we have these taco chains all over Paris. And you see what it says? Oh, tacos, original French tacos. So whoever knew that tacos were French? But we have original French tacos, and we have two or three competing chains now. They've become pretty popular for people that like tacos. Now, if you have a French taco, one of the things you're going to realize right away is it's not the same thing as an American taco. So what they call a French taco, Americans would call a burrito. So it's really a burrito. And they're fairly big, and they're stuffed with a lot of food. Oh, wow. Did this place change? I think this place may have changed. Huh. I'm a little confused right now. I think they redid that pub. You've heard, oh, tacos are very good. Yeah, you should give it a try. So they're one of the 2 or 3 big taco chains. Here you have a repertoire cinema. So we have these small independent cinemas throughout Paris, especially here in the Latin Quarter. So instead of showing like the big Hollywood productions, the current productions, these theaters show art films. So they're films that are a little bit more specialized, or they could be cult classics from the past. Okay, or they're films that attract a very niche audience, and so they tend to be in the small, independent cinemas. So look at that graffiti on the wall. I mean, it's huge graffiti, several stories high. This one doesn't look maybe necessarily that interesting, but lots of times it's like a mural, and it's beautiful. So some of you probably have seen those as well. Like Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind would be a good example. They could show Gone with the Wind, or like an old Cary Grant film, or they'll show like a specialized foreign film. It could be a current film, but that's not going to attract a huge audience, so you don't see them in the big theaters. You know, the traditional movie theater tends to show, these big blockbuster pictures from Hollywood or from one of the major European studios. Thank you very much, Robin. So Robin confirmed the date. So I was right with July 26th, and it closes on August 11th. Now, NBC has announced the host for the opening ceremonies and for the closing ceremonies. And one of the hosts for the closing ceremony is going to be Jimmy Fallon. So Jimmy Fallon is coming here in August, probably a few days before the 11th, to host the closing ceremony. Right, new releases. Yeah, new releases and the blockbusters. So the repertoire theories show new movies as well, but the new movies they show are movies that appeal to cinephiles, people really into cinema. So the avant-garde directors, a lot of the films you'll see in Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, lots of times are art films as well as some of the popular films. So After we get past this section up here, we're going to get into another busy part of this neighborhood. And you'll see a lot of restaurants. And restaurants in Paris means outside dining. People in Europe like to eat al fresco, so they'll often eat outside, even in the winter. The other feature of Paris, you see, we're on the sidewalk here. We have these things called passages. Here's one. I won't walk through it, but this goes all the way to the next street over. So then rather than walking down the street, you can walk through the passage, and you have buildings on either side, and you have stores, restaurants, bars, clubs. And so you walk down, and it's very nice. And it's cobblestone, and it's very quaint. You're missing my comment. What time do bars close, stop serving alcohol? I'm going to answer that in just a minute because it's a complicated answer. Did you get all your accreditation for the Olympics? So I now have 4 of them. So I'm waiting for the 5th one. I haven't heard any notice yet. And it was submitted a few weeks ago, so I don't know why it's taking so long. Turner Classic Movie stuff. I don't understand why France doesn't have Chick-fil-A. So, you know, France is very slow on getting fast food. So if you were in Paris, I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, we didn't even have very many McDonald's. I mean, I'm sure we had some. Oh no, actually, when did we have the first one? I think it was in the 90s. So, and not only Paris, all of France. So even McDonald's is relatively new to France, okay? We're talking maybe 30 years at the most. And so I remember a time where I could think of all the McDonald's, and there'd be like maybe 2 or 3 in Paris. And then I remember when we got our first Starbucks, which was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and we literally just had one. But then they started multiplying pretty quickly, and we had 2, 3. Now we've got a lot of them. But we don't have a lot. So because of that, we don't have a lot of fast food places. I mean, we have some, but it's not quite like the States. So you see here, this is what I was talking about earlier, how the dining is outside. You see everybody hanging out outside, eating and drinking and conversing with each other. So we're not really a fast food culture. We just got Five Guys a few years ago. That's relatively new. Subway. So we have a few of them, but not many. We only got Chipotle relatively recently. So we have a couple of them, but we don't have a lot of them. Oh, what time do the bars close? Yeah. Very cool, and it's covered. Yeah, they're usually covered, and they also have like these little space heaters to make it warmer in the winter time. But it's kind of fun because you can watch the traffic go by, you know, and it's much more animated, much more interesting. First, oh, there you go. Thank you. Robin looked it up. It was 1972, so a little bit longer than I was talking about. But still, you know, in the scheme of things, not that long ago. So 72, so like just a little over 50 years ago, was the very first McDonald's, apparently. They operate 61 restaurants across Maine in every corner of the state. Yeah, I believe it, you know. And McDonald's is popular now, I would say. I just watched a YouTube video about it, actually. And they explained how McDonald's in France is different from McDonald's in the States. I didn't realize how different it was because they seemed pretty similar to me. But apparently, this woman got her coat stuck on the pole here. But yeah, there are apparently a lot of differences in terms of design and food and whatnot. I really wish that other countries can host you as a live streamer. Yeah, well, they have in the past, back in the day of Periscope. So I would get invitations from different places like Jordan and from NASA and from a big convention in New York. Bars generally close at 2 a.m. Yeah, so it's a very weird thing with bars. And I'll tell you why. Because the laws have changed recently. So there was a time when the bars had to close. I think it was 2 a.m. So it was right after the metro closed. So it was universal. And then somebody came up with a bright idea of why should bars close at 2 a.m. Now, there were a few bars that managed to get around the law somehow because, I don't know, they had a private party after 2 or something. So it was, a little way to kind of get around the law. So they changed the law and said now you can apply for different types of licenses. So you can close at 2 a.m. or you can close at 5 a.m. So it's no longer based on time. So there are now a few places that stay open all night long and they close at 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. I think the only requirement that they have is that they have to close for at least an hour. So you can't stay open 24 hours. But we used to have 24-hour pubs. I remember those. But I think they probably stopped serving alcohol for an hour or two. So it's complicated. So if you really need a drink after 2 a.m., you can find places to do it. In fact, one of them was right over here. Was a 24-hour bistro. It depends too, if you serve food or not. So if you serve food and alcohol, some places stay open 24 hours. So here's one right here. What am I talking about? Here's a brasserie. You see? 24/24. So that means it's open around the clock. So if you wanted to eat or drink, you can sit here. But it's not a bar, obviously, right? It's not a club, but you can drink. So if you need more alcohol intake, you can come right here to this little spot and drink. You see these little pedestrian streets. This place right here is a little rum place that one of our former French presidents likes to dine at. And here's a place. I actually dined with some people that visited me last year. Thanks for the info. If an American wants to vote for the election in 2024 in Paris, how does that work? Oh, okay. Well, that's actually pretty easy to do. So there are quite a few Americans in Paris and expats around the world, and they can vote. So they vote by absentee ballot. So you can apply to wherever you are domiciled in and ask for an absentee ballot, and you mail it in. I believe some states allow you to fax it in. And maybe some states allow email. I'm not sure about that. But you can definitely mail it in, and that's how you can vote. Hey, Euro Maestro, my man. Long time no see, my friend. Nice to see you again. Sweden calling. We got Ocean Blue, our Swedish chess player. I think his ELO right now is, he slipped into French there for a second. His ELO right now is 2,200. So he's really up there and climbing. What is your favorite food? I really don't know. I'm not really a big gourmet, although I can be gourmand. Uh, but yeah, I like a lot of foods. I mean, I can like a lot of simple foods. Italian foods are really good, I find. Um, and some French foods are really good, and some Middle Eastern foods. Do you like Sweden? Yeah, of course. Sweden people are cute. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. Everybody loves the Swedish swim team. But anyways, here, look at the architecture. So this is sort of classic Parisian architecture right here. But in a minute, I'm going to show you, well, right here we have an example of some atypical architecture. So this is a monastery. But what makes it atypical is typical Paris architecture is all stone. So it's typically limestone because we have these big limestone quarries throughout Paris. So everything, virtually everything is made of limestone. But we have some of these buildings like this one, which is a mixture of limestone and brick. So you see a lot of limestone, but you see a lot of brick. So brick is a little unusual for us. We have a few places with brick. One thing we don't have is buildings made of wood. So wood is very popular in the States because you have a lot of forests. But wood is not considered preferred material for homes here because it's considered too temporary. You know, wood buildings only last so long. So if you know the 3 pigs story, you know pigs prefer brick and stone, and they don't like straw and wood. So here we have more brick. But you know, wood buildings can burn down. They don't last long. So they're cheaper to build typically, but they don't last as long. And in Europe, you know, they're expecting buildings to last centuries and centuries. And in the States, you know, they're very happy if a building lasts 100 years or whatever. Euro's greetings from Slim and Yap. Wow. Is that who I think it is? I'm not sure now. From Slim and Yap. Is that who I think it is? I used to remember how you hosting the Dutch piano guy, young guy. He's a cool artist. Well, Rico, you have a good memory. So yes, his name is Heis. He's also a YouTuber. He's a great guy. He's a pianist, as you said, and he's really, really good. And he can play any song that he hears for the very first time instantly. So he hears a new song for the first time, and he just starts playing it. So doesn't have to read it or everything. Hi, Evelyn in Maine. You like the lime and brick contrast? It is, and it is very interesting, and people do love it. And a lot of people come here to that particular square precisely for that reason. And we have a few places in Paris with brick. There's another one in the 13th, and there's another one up in the over by Montmartre. I think it's the 18th or 17th over by Montmartre. But yeah, the Dutch guy was fantastic, and he used to come here. He's also a big Disney fan because I used to do a lot of Disney scopes, and he even eventually got hired by Disneyland Paris to play the piano in the hotel bars inside the Disney hotels. And he even did a gig in Orlando at Disney World. You have a few relatively old sandstone buildings in Alberta. Hey Euro, I see a pharmacy. Do you have to get a prescription or without to get medication? Well, it just depends because some medications require a prescription and others do not require a prescription. But we do have pharmacies all over Paris. I think we're one of the highest pharmacies per capita, and French people apparently use a lot of drugs. So we do have our we have universal health care here, and so that allows us to get prescriptions for very cheap, if not free. And so a lot of people take advantage of that. So somebody mentioned, who was it? VDog55 mentioned Alberta. So Alberta is a very interesting place because we say that Alberta has been rat-free since 1905. So it's pretty impressive. So how did Alberta become rat-free? Well, if you know the history of rats, rats are not native to the Americas, so they came over mostly from Europe on boats. So they came from the East Coast, and the rats started marching westwards, and Alberta's in the west. And the people, the government of Alberta, had the foresight to realize that the rats are coming. So they built ditches along the border and established rat patrols to prevent the rats from coming into Alberta, because rats are very dependent on humans. So they basically live off of our garbage or our sewer systems. So they don't live out in nature. They live dependent upon us, and so it is possible to set up barriers like that, and you could have a large territory like that is rat free. However, once they establish in your community, they're very difficult to get rid of. So Paris apparently has a lot of rats in its sewer system, and sometimes it spills over into some of the gardens and parks, and then they have to have a big program to kill the rats. We use a lot as well, but usually narcotics. They are nasty. Yeah, I think the drugs that people use here, if I'm not mistaken, are like antidepressants and stuff like that. Rats, I think, are prevalent near you. Yes, I'm not going to lie. If I ever met you in person, I would have gotten a picture of you or even get an autograph. It's fascinating how you had over 15,000 views sometimes on Periscope. Yeah, so on Periscope, I used to have lots of views. Yes, over 15,000. I had some that went much higher. Usually when there was something unusual going on, like a fire or something, and it would go over 70,000 or 100,000. Not very often. But when I was on Google Plus, I used to get posts like in the millions, but those are mostly texts. But unfortunately, the Google Plus platform died out, and then the Periscope platform died out. So every time I get big on a platform, the platform dies out. So I didn't do a good job of choosing the right platform. So I should have stuck to YouTube, but I just didn't have the commitment that it takes, because YouTube really requires a lot of investment in terms of time, even effort to some extent, and consistency. So I like the random nature of Twitter and X. The Paris attack numbers must have been huge. Yeah, I don't remember those numbers, but yes, I believe that those were huge. Yes, because unfortunately we'd had some terrorist attacks in Paris, and it happened to be around the time of Periscope, some of the attacks, and so the time I was walking around Paris and events would occur. And the Bataclan event, I just missed that event, like experiencing it in person, because I was in a part of Paris, and to get back home, I had to go through the Bataclan area where the attack occurred. And for some reason that day, I changed my plans and left, like half an hour to an hour earlier than I had anticipated. And by leaving early, I just missed the attacks. So it's probably a good thing because I might have been killed in them. Because if I had left at my originally scheduled time, I would have been right in the area where those terrorists were going around with their machine guns, just shooting random people in the streets before going into the theater. They were shooting people. Like, we tend to think of the theater because that was the biggest one, but they were shooting people in the restaurants and the cafes along the way. So people just sitting down having a little coffee, would get sprayed with these bullets. So luckily I missed all that. Seeing you showing CNN was, so I got to show CNN because Anderson Cooper was here with his team in Berman, and Christian Amanpour, and so I got a chance to show them. But more importantly, I got a chance to meet them and talk to them, and I even got to interview Christian Amanpour, who was kind enough to grant me an interview. And so that was great. And I got an exclusive because I was the very first person to interview the survivors from the Bataclan as they had come out of the theater. Some of them were hiding in rooms and stuff. And I got the very first interview of one of the people that had escaped from the Bataclan. And CNN was second because they were right next to me. So that was fun. I showed the Today Show. Wow, you've got a good memory, Rico. I did show the Today Show. So one of the presenters on the Today Show invited me to go along with him. So I got to go into the Today Show and show you guys the green room and the studio and the stage. So I was on the actual set of the show, filming from behind the people, the set. So that was a lot of fun. And I think that was probably an exclusive too. Is in London right now, or the US. I don't know where she is. She travels around a lot. You really lead an interesting life. Those were fun times because Periscope was so new, and I was getting a lot of crazy opportunities, and so I met quite a few famous people during that time. And some of the things I did, mostly that was like in the first year of Periscope, and a little bit the second year, and then after that it trailed off. But I was doing a lot of exclusive, like backstage pass type stuff to red carpet events. So I filmed like an embassy party at the embassy and things like that. Fashion show at the embassy. But Amanpour was very interesting, and I appreciate it. And the thing that really shocked me the most, and this I owe you guys a big thanks, when CNN came here with their crew to film the theater, at one point to film not the theater so much, but the aftermath of the terrorist attacks, I approached John Berman and I started to introduce myself. So look at this building. So he would know who I was. So, I started off, hi, John, I'm Euro Maestro, blah, blah, blah. And before I could finish my sentence, he says, "Oh yeah, I know exactly who you are." So that blew my mind. Because I was like, wait a second, how does John Berman know who I am? So apparently he got wind of my broadcast. And I think it's because of you guys, the viewers. Because you must have sent him messages saying, talk to Euro or check out Euro. Because he knew all about me. He knew about my live streaming and everything. And it was quite a shock to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. So it made it a lot easier. Was expecting a cupcake and found your row. I don't blame you. I'd want a cupcake too. I'm going to turn around and show you guys this building. Look at that building. It's so beautiful at night, lit up. So this building is the Institut de France. And what it's famous for is over here, behind those doors and behind those windows, there's a big interior court and a library. But it's very famous for a group of people that meet only once a week on Thursdays. On Thursday nights, as a matter of fact. And it's 40 people, generally speaking, 40 men who meet here every Thursday. Can anybody guess who might these 40 men be? So they're called in French, we call them the Immortals. And these people have the role, which is considered the most prestigious, the most important role you can have in France, is to become one of these 40 people, the Immortals. But they do die, and they get replaced, but they're still called the Immortals. Shiners. I don't know what shiners are. Aren't those the people that have a circus in the States? Look at this beautiful building. Do you see this building across the river there, all lit up? Isn't that building gorgeous? They secure the French language. Robin! Oh my God, Robin comes in. Exactly. So those people belong to what's called the Académie Française, the French. That woman got it.
This is where they sell the love ice cream. Oh my God.
Woman got all excited for something and started screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God." It has something to do with ice cream. I'm not quite sure what that was about. But in any case, yeah, so the Académie the French Academy in English. So yeah, so those people secure the French language. They come up with the official French dictionary. They define the rules for French spelling and French grammar. Who doesn't get excited over ice cream? But she got really excited. I don't know. She was like started screaming, "Oh my God!" But the thing is, I don't even know what she's talking about because I don't see any ice cream. But maybe there was an ice cream stand here before. I don't know. Can always tell Americans. Yes, that's true. They do stand out in a crowd. You can see the island here. That's the island of Notre Dame. You can see it's in the middle of the river. So when I talked about the French Summer Olympics opening ceremonies taking place on the river, it's not going to be on that narrow part of the river where you see it's divided in half. It's going to be on this big, wide part of the river. Okay, looking in this direction. You can see the Louvre there. Okay, and over this way, you can see the more expansive part of the river. So there's going to be these large boats going down in the river, all decorated with the athletes on the boats representing the different countries. And then along the river banks is going to be the public. And they'll have, in some areas, they'll have VIP seating where you'll need a special ticket for the VIP seating. And there's other places where the crowds will be able to just stand and watch. So it should be an amazing event, I think. Hope you cover that. Yeah, I hope to cover that as well. Thank God for the Americans. Yes, they're very helpful in many ways. So actually, I put out a post on X today, and I shared it with some people. It's a great YouTube video that explains that the English language does not exist. Who knew that? So it sounds like I'm speaking English, and you may think you speak English, and you read English and write English, But the premise of this YouTube video, and he's not the first person to mention this, by the way. As he points out in the video, there's books about it, and historians have mentioned it a long time, that the English language does not exist. And in fact, the English language is just badly pronounced French. So that may come as a shock to some people. Maybe some people that know history a little bit more might understand what this refers to. But there used to be a language called Old English, which we call today Old English, which is the original basis of English, which is a Germanic language. But it got dramatically transformed after 1066 because the Normans, who are in northern France, spoke French, and they conquered England. So William the Conqueror in 1066 at the Battle of Hastings conquers England, and so they become the royalty, and they become the nobility in France. So the elite, the aristocrats, are all speaking French, and then the poor farmers are all speaking English, meaning Old English. And just like today, everybody likes to copy the rich and famous, right? The powerful and the celebrities. So anybody that wanted to climb the social ladder or wanted to make more money would learn and speak French to communicate with the royal family and the nobility and the aristocrats. And so over time, the French language transformed English into what's now called Middle English, which has nothing to do with Old English. So Old English you can't even read or understand, unless you're fluent in German maybe. But Middle English you can, because of the French influence. If a U.S. official is visiting Paris and is dining at the Eiffel Tower, is there huge security? Yes. Hoping you can cover the Olympics. Yes. Hey, Euro, are you talking of teaming up with Steve on AFTV for some Olympic coverage? I think we will be talking about that. So we didn't get into any specifics, but he and I did talk about, when the news events happen in Paris, it could be very helpful to his channel if I was covering it live. So rather than just talking about it, to show live video footage from the event. So the Olympics is like a perfect example of that, because obviously there will be big news over the course of the entire Olympics, and it would be good to have a man on the ground filming it. So yeah, it would be great if we team up. But anyways, if you're interested in the history of the language, check out that YouTube video. It's on my X feed. It's pretty interesting. And it shows how so much of the language and words that we use today in the English language are actually French words. So I should show you guys, this huge building that I've been walking along is the Louvre. And it goes on and on and on and on past here. Interesting dialogue there, Euro. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Gas on the brain. Hello, Beatrice. Be sure to feel free to ask questions in the comments. You know what? This church right here was this church, and I'm thinking where else? Versailles, I think, was the other place, were places that Kanye West, when he got married, was looking at to have his wedding here. Didn't he eventually have his wedding in Italy somewhere? But he looked at this place and at Versailles to get his wedding. You're cool AF. Please hit the like button, says Evelyn. Yeah, guys, that helps me out a lot. If you hit the like button, share it later, leave comments later. That would be great. This was actually supposed to be on X instead of YouTube, but I had a technical problem. Have to figure out. So I have two iPhones with me, and one of them I can do X broadcast on, and the other one, even though it's accessing the same X account, doesn't have the option for live stream. So I don't know what the difference between the two is. Theoretically, they should be identical, but it doesn't work. Kanye is something, says Robin. An emoji. Are you doing good on X? Do you get good viewership? I don't get Periscope level viewership, but I don't really know anymore what is good on X because I don't see a lot of people getting very high numbers on X, including like, really big famous people. They kind of get moderate numbers. So I don't know why that is. Glad it's on YouTube as I don't have X. Well, there you go, Mom. So I do like to mix it up. I want to show you that big, beautiful building that I showed you earlier that was all lit up. That was the Samaritain, which used to be a big department store. Beautiful building. And it closed down years ago for renovation and then never reopened. And then they transformed it now into a mixed-use building, so it has some residences in there. It has some retail space. It was a beautiful space, historic space. So, like our Macy's, yes, I guess Macy's is maybe a good example. So, Paris has a few very large department stores. So Samaritain was one of them. Bon Marché. So Bon Marché, which is on the other side of the river here, is very famous because they were the first store to introduce the idea that the products for sale on display had a set price, and they would put price tags on them. So of course that's common today. But there was a time when you would go into a store and the prices were not displayed, and you would just ask, and so there was a sort of negotiation that would take place, and you might get a great deal, or you might actually be paying more than somebody else. So it was a negotiated price. And they came up with the idea, we'll just put set prices on everything, and we'll end all that negotiation, and either you like the price or you don't like the price. And if you set the price low enough, bon marché in French means a good deal. It's a good market, a good deal. And so it's actually kind of expensive. Naming is everything. But that's the general idea. And so then, of course, now we have a lot of department stores. We have the Printemps, which is famous. Over 150 years old. I think it might be getting close to 200 now. And, of course, the Galeries Lafayette. Probably the most famous department store in Paris. So here's this building I was telling you about. Isn't that beautiful? So at one time this was a big department store, but now it's mixed space. It's got some retail space, some office space, and some residential space. And they have some luxury apartments in there. If you're lucky to live there, you're very fortunate because look where you are. You're in the center of Paris. You got a view of the river. You got a view of these beautiful buildings across the river, the conciergerie. It's very luxurious, as you can see. And at the same time, they put in social housing. See, look at the doorman here. So you can see you have the fancy doorman and everything. So this is one of the things that's typically French, is you mix in social housing with luxury housing. So if you're one of the fortunate people to qualify for social housing, you might be living in a luxurious building like this one. Next to multi-millionaires, or maybe more. Here's a nice little building too. Has a nice restaurant at the top and a view and stuff like that. You're fancy too. Yeah, so even though you're in social housing, you're fancy too. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Not into X, prefer YouTube, says Daniel. Lidl. Yeah, and so you see there's a lot of nice shops around here, fancy shops. And when we get a little bit more up this way, we start getting into the more popular shops. The Nikes, the Adidas. Have you seen famous celebrities in Paris? Oh my God, many, many times. So yeah, I've been very fortunate that way. Occasional brushes with celebrity. But I've done that in not just in Paris, but like in New York and London. And sometimes I've interviewed these people. If you look on my YouTube channel, you'll see I've interviewed some celebrities. One of them, this is a club, by the way, Kong, to my left. But I've interviewed like the co-founder of Reddit, Alexius Ohanian, who is married, as some of you may know, to a very famous tennis player. So I have like a 45-minute interview of his. Actually, it might be longer. Might be 90-minute. Anyways, a very long interview with him on YouTube. But yeah, I've interviewed a lot of people, some famous tennis players, Maria Sharapova, Evelyn erased her message. And, Robert Scoble, a lot of interesting people. I think interesting is more important than famous, right? Because there's some people that are very famous, but they're not necessarily very interesting. I don't think I should name names, but, there are certain celebrities that they're known for being famous and not for necessarily anything interesting that they've done or said. Hey, Euro Gallery is the very best. George Clooney. Is there live streaming on Reddit? So yeah, there is some live streaming on Reddit. In fact, one of my more popular videos got popular on Reddit. So I was in Grenoble. It was actually a very simple video like this, like a walk and talk. So no major event going on. And I was filming the ski lift, cable car that takes you to the top of the mountain. And that got over 100,000 concurrent views on Reddit. If you can imagine. So it means 100,000 at the same time were watching the broadcast. So it was quite a surprise to me. But with Reddit, anything is possible because of the upvoting system. So if enough people upvote, it gets pushed up higher in the chain and more people see it. Bad speller. Hey, Euro. Hello, Lunali. Yes, Hugh Grant and Robert Downey Jr. absolutely miserable to common folk. I wasn't even thinking of them because at least they've done movies and stuff, you know. There are certain people that they haven't really done anything. They're just known for being celebrities, you know. I mean, probably the most famous example that comes to mind is Paris Hilton, who they say is famous for being famous. And so you do have some people like this that they're literally just known for hanging around other famous people, basically. Social housing, and they're remarkable. I mentioned this several times back on Periscope. Would have been glad for you to cover the Trump White House, especially during COVID times. You're good in silence. So yeah, actually, so during the first Trump campaign for the election in 2016 and the first year in 2017, I actually did have some Trump-related contacts, and there was some talk about me doing some type of Trump coverage or White House coverage. It never materialized, but we had some really serious talks there for, a few months. And at one point, I really thought I was probably going to go there and just cover Trump on live stream. And that was before everything got really crazy. That was really during the campaign and the very beginning of his administration. And some of my contacts fell through because they ended up getting kicked out or charged with crimes and stuff like that. So it was a very, very volatile time. So it was quite funny. Because I was talking to some of those people. I mentioned this. Okay, yeah. Probably shouldn't talk about that on YouTube, I guess. I don't want to get brought into a congressional hearing or something. Do you know Penguin 6? He now covers the White House. And does you do? Of course I know Penguin 6. So back in the early Periscope days, Penguin 6 and I had some similarities in that, first of all, we both used a penguin by coincidence, and we both did these sort of walk and talk things. So I would be walking around Paris and just involved in wild, meandering conversations, and he would do the same thing from Hong Kong. And so we ended up talking and becoming friends, and then we also met up in person. So that was great, yeah. And yes, I've seen that now he actually covers the White House. So he did a lot of stuff informally for a long time. Yeah. And so we have some other similarities in our backgrounds. So it was quite interesting to see him. Hey Euro, what a nice surprise. Thank you so much. Well, Gossamer 86, I'm glad you like it. Look at all these tents here. So I'm trying to think what this is about. So normally there's no tents here, right? This is just a big park. But obviously there's some kind of event going on. Maybe it's an Easter market. What could it be? I should know since it's not too far out of my neighborhood, but that's the problem with Paris is there's always so many different things going on. But we have some security here. Maybe I can ask him. Bonjour monsieur. C'est quoi ces tentes? Comment? Brocante.
Oui.
Et c'est pour une semaine ou?
Non, c'est jusqu'à lundi.
Jusqu'à lundi. Okay, d'accord, merci. Okay, so it is just for Easter. So they have a little, what do you call that in English? They sell all kinds of like little items. So that's why we have all these tents. And it's just till Monday. And then over there we have the Commerce building. Used to be a stock exchange many centuries ago. And now we have much newer and bigger stock exchange. Lots of security roaming around these tents. Want to make sure that nobody steals the goods for sales, I guess. And that's a little shopping mall. We don't have too many shopping malls in Paris. I think we have 2 maybe. Maybe there's a third one I don't know about. So we don't have very many. This is one of them. We have some more in the periphery. There's a big one out in La Défense. Yeah, like a little Easter market. So, you guys probably know our Christmas markets, which are a little bit more famous and iconic. The Christmas markets. And then we have something similar in the Easter markets. And then coming up, oh my God, I have to show you this neighborhood coming up. Oh, there's one of the public toilets. So we have those spread out around the city. It's always so afraid when you film security or police. Is that illegal? That's really a complicated question to answer. So generally speaking, you can kind of film them, but what you're not supposed to do is like reveal their identities. So I just avoid filming them altogether. So there isn't any question. It looks like the church is open. So this is a beautiful church, the Saint Eustache. They have an amazing organ. So if it's open, I'm just gonna pop in for a second to take a look. I'm not sure if it's open or not. The doors look open, but it also has police in front for some reason. So they might be doing a rehearsal for Easter or something like that. Bonjour. No, it is open. So I don't know why they have security, but the first thing I gotta tell you, there's a service going on.
Bien sûr, si nous regardons l'état du monde au moment de la mort de Jésus, difficile de ne pas y trouver les mêmes éléments qu'aujourd'hui. Pays envahi, occupé, les responsables politiques ou religieux aussi lâches, certains d'aujourd'hui, quand ils ne servent pas eux-mêmes leurs propres intérêts, la guerre, la peur, et nous avons vu dans le récit de la Passion, par exemple, nous avons lu vendredi, combien le jour de son exécution, Jésus est entouré de disciples sans courage, la nuit prêts à le trahir. Toute la complexité, toute l'ambivalence de la nature humaine que nous n'arrivons pas à canaliser. Mais quand même, ceux et celles qui l'aimaient, ceux qui le suivaient, inconditionnellement, ils étaient là, eux aussi. Par exemple, ces femmes qui sont montées au tombeau au seuil du feu. C'est la fin de l'évangile de Marc que nous venons de lire. Étrange, cet évangile se termine donc sur ce vide, ce silence. Toute cette aventure avec Jésus pour en arriver là, un peu désertique. comme une présence. L'homme vont entendre, elles sont interpellées. D'où surgit la parole? L'évangile qui d'un ange, oui. Qui sûrement du fond de leur cœur. Le cœur garde vivante la parole qu'elles ont reçue de Jésus. Elles l'entendent, cette parole. Au cœur d'elles-mêmes, elles sont prêtes à en témoigner. Alors, laissons un tout petit moment nourrir nos célébrations qui sont riches, qui sont colorées, qui nous procurent une émotion spirituelle profonde. Alors, arrêtons un petit moment pour enregistrer cette première œuvre de ce qui est encore notre Église, contemplant cette première cellule que personne de notre Église. Ce n'est pas pour rien que Marc raconte ainsi un petit groupe de femmes qui ont laissé résonner en elles l'amour qu'elles ont reçu de Jésus. Elles l'ont donné face au silence, face au vide. Nous tous, croyons, ce soir, nous venons de là.
All right, guys. Sorry for the radio silence there, but I didn't really feel comfortable talking while that service was going on. But the thing I was going to say is the very first thing I noticed when walking in there was I could smell the incense. So there's a very powerful odor of incense. And then maybe 30 seconds or a minute later, I saw one of the priests walking by there, spreading that incense around. So it was quite nice. Very beautiful. I didn't want to show too much, so I tried to just show things on the side and the exterior. But the main objects of beauty were in the center, and I didn't want to film that too much because there were people actually in service there. So I gave you a couple of quick glimpses. Thought we went into the loo. No. So I was just sort of like on the side. So in some of our churches are kind of tourist attractions like Notre Dame. So the tourists are on the sides and they can film and take pictures. But in the center are the actual religious practitioners that engage in the service. So when was 8 Mass exactly? So I don't know what time the Mass started, but it's 15 minutes after 10 o'clock right now. So I imagine that means the service must have started maybe at 9. I think if it would have started at 8, it would have been over by now. I don't know how long Easter Mass is, but I'd be surprised if it was that long. Joining Islam is like joining the Hell's Angels with Jeffrey Epstein as the prophet. Very late in. Good evening, Euro. Oh my God. Plane Crazy is here. So on this street, again, you see it's a lot of pedestrians and outside dining. And you see there's all kinds of fun shops here. Like you have a little Belgian waffle shop, pizza places, bars and restaurants. Look at this. These people, it's one big group. And they turned, usually you would have like couples or four. And what they did is they turned all the tables to face each other. So it's It's a small, happy group. So they're singing. So I think you guys might have recognized it. They're singing happy birthday. So somebody born on Easter Saturday. Yes, you guys picked it up. Singing the French version of it. And that's why they're all gathered around the table like that, a small crowd. They saw me filming, and they were very happy to be filmed, and they were smiling and waving at me. I don't know, one of the people at the table. So it looked to me like it was the girl at the end there, but I didn't ask. Sometimes I go up and ask. Now look at this street here. Again, you see it's a pedestrian street, and you see what they've done. They've put up these barricades here so that cars cannot even enter, even if they wanted to, right? So you're like totally blocked. And we have a lot of neighborhoods like this. We have other neighborhoods that are blocked only on the weekends. So so we have a lot of neighborhoods like that. One of my friends lives in those. So during the week, you can actually drive on the streets, but on the weekends, it's all pedestrian. This one is pedestrian all the time, by the way. So you see the side streets, again, all pedestrian. And this shop is really good because not only does it have a lot of like restaurants and places to eat, but it has a lot of fun food places to shop, like a fromagerie where they sell, you have a cheesemonger, and they have a fishmonger, and they have a butcher. So you can also get a lot of fresh foods, and a chocolatier, or big bad trucks. Yes, it stops big bad trucks from getting in. Yeah, I mean, it will not surprise me if in, 20 years or 30 years, we might not have any cars at all in Paris. Like, I could see the entire city becoming vehicle free, or at least certainly the center of the city, I'm sure will be center free. I mean, not center free, vehicle free in the center. I mean, it's getting there already, and it's just a matter of time that they close the few remaining roads, and you'll just, if you want to take your car, you'll just have to park and walk into the rest of the space. Don't tell Steve. Hiya, friend. Terry, D24, hugs. Hi, Lois. Happy birthday, Yua. Oh my God, it's somebody's birthday. That's great. They just sung the birthday song. Will you host me if I come to Paris for my birthday, man? When is your birthday? And are you coming to Paris? Thank you, 86. I sure could use one today. It was an Easter vigil, and that one lasts two hours everywhere. Oh, well, thank you, Daniel. So that's the explanation. So it's an Easter vigil, and it lasts 2 hours. So it probably started at 9, I'm guessing, and goes to 11. Here's Little Italy Cafe, spelled the Italian way, not the French way. And then it just continues up that way. And you notice, again, the cobblestone street. But this one, instead of big cobblestones, you notice it's little cobblestones. And they even have a street up there called the Little Squares. So I really like the little squares because they're very close together. And if you're rollerblading, it's a lot more comfortable than the big cobblestones. Delivery at night if they close the street, I think. Yeah, I'm sure they would have deliveries. Deliveries are very popular. A lot of the deliveries are done by foot or by bicycle or by these little mopeds. So we don't most of our deliveries are not done by cars. So I know like in the States, you use cars a lot for pizza deliveries and stuff. So it's not really the case here. Most of the deliveries, a lot of them are done on foot, but the other ones are done on bicycle or like these little mopeds sometimes. Hey, Euro Maestro. Hey there, Jap, the eclectic collector. I like that. The little easier squares are easier to walk on. It's a lot smoother and it's nice. You know, it's just really nice. And you still get the cobblestone effect. I mean, the big ones would be fine if they just put them closer together. So here's one of those mopeds. You can see all the waiters standing out in front. I remember one time I went to this fairly fancy affair. Actually, it was at the stock exchange, and they did a formal dinner at night. And before the dining area was open to the guests, they had all the waiters lined up in formation. It was really impressive. There must have been like 30 or 40 waiters, all dressed up to the nines and all in formation in front of the dining area. And then they opened up the dining area. I'll have to see if I still have some photos from that event. How can we tip you? So I'm not taking any tips, but thanks. How is trash collection in Paris? I'm talking about business deliveries. Oh, business deliveries. Oh, you got a point there. Yeah, so they do have, that's exactly how they do it. They have business deliveries at night. So for like the big stores, so those use trucks and then they come in at night and do the delivery. So they do that now. It would just be too disruptive to do it during the daytime. So yeah, that's a good point. So for the stores, they do have deliveries. Wishing I could tip for your walks. Well, maybe someday. Maybe someday. I should put my bank details online. But yeah, no, for now it's probably better this way. Oh, what is this guy here making crepes? So he's got his chef's hat on, and look at that. He's putting on a little show for us. Oh, we're gonna try when they have samples here. Look at that. C'est du thon ou c'est quoi?
Non, c'est du thon.
Ah, d'accord.
Regardez ma galette, c'est un travail d'un magicien.
It's really good. So I love that they have free samples there. Oh wow, I can't tell you how good it is. Well, I'm definitely going back there. It's amazingly good. What is in that? Oh my God, it was delicious. Wow. Plus you get the little show of watching it, but that was really the best galette I've had in a long time. Wow. Even the outside was very tasty. So I'm not sure of everything that was in there, but there was definitely some truffle in there. So that was nice. I don't know. I'm going to go back and get all the ingredients, but that was like one of the most delicious things I've ever tasted. Wow. That I almost didn't even go for. I was really surprised. I wasn't expecting it. I really wasn't expecting it to be that good, but it was really good. And like I said, even the shell was good. I mean, it was impressive. So I will be going back there. But this street, it's very common on this street to have samples. They used to have, they closed down now, I think, but they used to have like 3 pizza places right next to each other, across from each other. So both of them would be battling out samples in the center of the street to get people to come to their side. And there was good pizza, I have to admit, it was good pizza. So this street has a lot of pizza and ice cream and bars and things like that. All right. You know what? I think I'm going to end the broadcast here, guys. I want to get home, and I'm not too far from home. So, plus now I want to eat after having that little tasty entree. So I'm going to sign off here. Thank you guys so much. This was really wonderful. I can't tell you. This makes me so feel good. And we've had a good-sized crowd. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube account if you don't already. Share this out. It would be great if you leave comments when not the comments here, but like when the video finishes, leave comments. Greetings from Sweden. Another Swedish person. Thank you so much, Euro. Thank you, Luann. That would help me out a lot if you leave likes and comments, and then of course share it if you want. And be sure to hit the notifications on YouTube so you get notified if I do another YouTube Live sometime soon. And when you hit that bell, you have a choice of hitting, of getting notified sometimes or every time. So yeah, hit every time if that's what you want. Thank you so much. I'm gonna head back into the metro, and I'll talk to you guys later. And you can also follow me on X or Twitter if you want. Talk to you guys later. Bye.